In this session, we are going to learn two important SQL statements or clauses that are widely used, that is group by and having. First, we'll understand the basics of group by and having, and then jump into MySQL Workbench to implement these statements. So let's begin. First, what is group by in SQL? So the group by statement or clause groups records into summary rows and returns one record for each group. It groups the rows with the same group by item expressions and computes aggregate functions for the resulting group. A group by clause is a part of select expression. In each group, no two rows have the same value for the grouping column or columns. Now below, you can see the syntax of group by. So first we have the select statement, and then followed by the column names that we want to select. From, we have the table name, followed by the where condition, and next we have the group by clause, and here we include the column names. Finally, we have the order by and the column names. Now here is an example of the group by clause. So we want to find the average salary of employees for each department. So here you can see we have the employees table. It has the employee ID, the employee name, the age of the employee, we have the gender, the date on which the employee had joined the company, then we have the department to which each of these employees belong to, we have the city to which the employees belong to, and then we have the salary in dollars. So actually we'll be using this employees table on MySQL Workbench as well. So if you were to find the average salary of employees in each department, so this is how your SQL query with group by clause would look like. So we have selected department, and then we are using an aggregate function, that is AVG, which is average, and we have chosen the salary column, and here we have given an alias name which is average underscore salary, which appears in the output, you can see here, from employees, and we have grouped it by department. So here in the output you can see we have the department names and the average salary of the employees in each department. Now let me take you to my MySQL Workbench, where we will implement group by and solve specific problems. Okay, so I am on my MySQL Workbench. So let me make my connection first. I'll enter the password. So this will open my SQL editor. So first of all, let me check the databases that I have. So I'll use my query, that is show databases. Let's run it. Okay, you can see we have a list of databases here. I'm going to use my SQL underscore intro database. So I'll write use SQL underscore intro. So this will take us inside this database. I'll run it. Alright. Now you can check the tables that are present in SQL underscore intro database. If I write show tables, you can see the list of tables that are already present in this database. To do our demo and understand group by as well as having, let me first create an employee table. So I'll write create table employees. Next, I'll give my column name as employee underscore ID, which is the ID for each employee. I'll give my data type as integer, and I'll assign employee ID as my primary key. Next, I'll give employee underscore name, and my data type would be varchar. I'll give the size as 25. My third column would be the age column. Age would obviously be an integer. Then I have my gender column. I'll use character data type and assign a value of 1 or size of 1. Next we have the date of join, and the data type will be date. We have the department column as well. This is going to be of varchar, and 20 will be the size. Next we have the city column, which is actually the city to which the employee belongs to. And finally we have the salary column, which will have the salary for all the employees. Okay, now let me select and run this, you can see here we have successfully created our table. Now to check if our table was created or not, you can use the describe command. I'll write describe employees. You can see the structure of the table so far. Alright, now it's time for us to insert a few records into this employees table. So I'll write insert into employees and I'll copy paste the records which I have already written on a notepad. So let me show you. So this is my EMP notepad and you can see I have already put the information for all the employees. So let me just copy this and we'll paste it here. Alright, let me go to the top and verify if all the records are fine. Alright, so let's run our insert query. Okay, so you can see here we have inserted 20 rows of information, and now let's check the table information or the records that are present in our employees table. I'll write select star from employees. If I run it, you can see here I have my employee ID, the employee name, age, gender, we have the city, salary, and in total we have inserted 20 records. Now let me run a few SQL commands to check how the structure of our table is. Let's say I want to see the distinct cities that are present in our table. So I'll write select distinct city from employees. If I run this, you see here there are total 8 different cities present in our employees table. So we have Chicago, there's Seattle, Boston, we have New York, Miami, and Detroit as well. Now let's say you want to know the total number of departments that are present. So you can use distinct department. If I run this, alright, you can see we have 7 rows returned and here are the department names. So we have sales, marketing, product, tech, IT, finance, and HR. Alright, now let me show you another SQL command. Now this is to use an aggregate function. So I want to find the average age of all the employees from the table. So I can write select AVG, which is the aggregate function for average. Inside that I have passed my age column from employees. If I run this, so the average age of all the employees in our table is 33.35. Now say you want to find the average age of employees in each department. So for this you need to use the group by clause. I'll give a comment here. I want to find the average age in each department. So I'll write select department, comma, I'll write average of age from employees group by department. Now if I run this, you can see here we have our 7 departments on the left, and on the right you can see the average age of employees in each of these departments. Now you can see here in the output it says AVG of age, which is not readable, so I can give an alias name as average age. Alright, I can bring this down, and if you want you can round the values also. So you can round the decimal places. So I'll use a round function before the average function, and the round function takes 2 parameters. One is the variable and the decimal place you want to round it to. So if I run this, there you go. You can see here we have the average age of all the employees in each of these departments. Alright, Now suppose you want to find the total salary of all the employees for each department. So you can write select department, comma. Now I want the total salary, so I'll use the sum function and I'll pass my column as salary from employees group by department. Let's run this query. You can see here in the output we have the different departments, and on the right you can see the total salary of all the employees in each of these departments. Now here also you can give an alias name as total underscore salary. Let's run it again and you can see the output here. Alright, now moving ahead, you can also use the order by clause along with the group by clause. Let's say you want to find the total number of employees in each city and group it in the order of employee ID. So to do this, I can use my select query. I'll write select count of, let's say, employee ID, and I want to know the city as well, from employees group by city, and next you can use the order by clause. I'll write order by count of employee ID, and I'll write DESC, which stands for descending. If I run this query, you can see here on the left you have the count of employees, and on the right you can see the city names. So in Chicago we had the highest number of employees working, that was 4. Then we had Seattle, Houston, Boston, Austin, and the remaining also had 2 employees. So in this case we have ordered our result based on the count of employee ID in descending order. So we have the highest number appearing at the top and then followed by the lowest. Okay, now let's explore another example. Suppose we want to find the number of employees that joined the company each year. We can use the year function on the date of joining column. Then we can count the employee IDs and group the result by each year. So let me show you how to do it. So I'll write select. I'm going to extract year from the date of join column. I'll give an alias as year. Next, I'll count the employee ID from my table name, that is employees, and I'm going to group it by year, date of join. I give a semicolon. Alright, so let's run this. Great. You see here in the result we have the year that we have extracted from the date of join column, and on the right you can see the total number of employees that joined the company each year. So we have in 2005 there was 1 employee. Similarly we have in 2009 there were 2 employees. If I scroll down, you have information of other years as well. Now if you want, you can order this as well based on year or count. Okay. Now you can also use the group by to join 2 or more tables together. So to show you this operation, let me first create a sales table. So I'll write create table sales, and the sales table will have columns such as the product ID, which is going to be of integer type. Then we have the selling price of the product. Now this will be a float value. Then we have the quantity sold for each of the products. So I'll write quantity. Quantity will be of integer type. Next we have the state in which the item was sold, and state I'll put it as varchar and give the size as 20. Let's run this so that we'll create our sales table. Alright, so we have successfully created our sales table. Next, we need to insert a few values to our sales table. So I have already written the records in a notepad. Let me show you. Okay, so here you can see I have my sales text file. Let me just copy these information. I'll just paste it on the query editor. Okay, now let me go ahead and run this insert command. Alright, so you can see here we have successfully inserted 9 rows of information. So let me just run it through what we have inserted. So the first column is the product ID column. Then we have the selling price at which this product was sold. Then we have the quantity that was sold and in which state it was sold. So we have California, Texas, Alaska. Then we have another product ID which is 123, and these are the states in which the products were sold. So let me just confirm with the select statement. I'll write select star from sales. If I run this, you can see we have successfully created our table. Okay. Now suppose you want to find the revenue for both the product IDs 121 and let's say 123, since we have just two product IDs here. So for that you can use the select query. So I'll write select product ID. Next, I want to calculate the revenue. So revenue is nothing but selling price multiplied by the quantity. So I'll use the sum function to find the total revenue, and inside the sum function I'll use my selling price column multiplied by my quantity column. I'll give this an alias name as revenue from my table name, that is sales. Finally, I'll group it by product ID. Let's run it. There you go. So here you can see we have the two product IDs 121 and 123, and here you can see the revenue that was generated from these two products. Alright. Now let's say we have to find the total profit that was made from both the products 121 and 123. So for that I'll create another table. Now this table will have the cost price of both the products. So let me create the table first. I'll write create table. Let's say the table name is C product, which stands for the cost price of the products. I'll give my first column as product ID. This will be an integer, and I'll have my second column as cost price. Cost price will have floating type values. Let's run this. So we have successfully created our product cost table. Now let me insert a few values into the C product table. So I'll write insert into C underscore product. I'll give my values for 121. Let's say the cost price was $270 for each, and next we have my product as 123, and let's say the cost price for product 123 was $250. Let's insert these two values. Okay. Next, we'll join our sales table and the product cost table. So this will give us the profit that was generated for each of the products. So I'll write select C dot product underscore ID, comma, I'll write sum S dot sell underscore price. Now here C and S are alias names. So if I subtract my cost price from the selling price, that will return the profit that was generated. I'll multiply this with s dot quantity, close the bracket. I'll give an alias name as profit from sales as S. So here S stands for the sales table. I'm going to use inner join C underscore product table as the alias name should be C, where S dot product underscore ID is equal to C dot product underscore ID. We are using product underscore ID because this column is the common column to both the tables. And finally, I am going to group it by C dot product underscore ID. Alright. So let me tell you what I have done here. So I am selecting the product ID. Next, I am calculating the profit by subtracting the cost price from the selling price, and I have multiplied the quantity column. I am using an inner join to connect my sales and the product cost table, and I am joining on the column that is product ID, and I have grouped it by C dot product ID. Let's run this. There you go. So here you can see for product ID 121, we made a profit of $1,100, and for product ID 123, we made a profit of $840. So now that we have learnt group by in detail, let's learn about the having clause in SQL. The having clause in SQL operates on grouped records and returns rows where aggregate function results matched with given conditions only. So now having and where clause are kind of similar, but where clause can't be used with an aggregate function. So here you can see the syntax of having clause. You have the select statement followed by the column names from the table name, then we have the where conditions, next we have the group by, finally we have having, and at last we have order by column names. So you can see here we have a question at hand. We want to find the cities where there are more than 2 employees. So you can see the employee table that we had used in our group by clause as well. So if you were to find the cities where there are more than 2 employees, so this is how your SQL query should look like. So we have selected the employee ID and we are finding out the count using the count function. Next we have selected the city column from employees. We have grouped it by city, and then we have used our having clause. So we have given our condition having count of employee ID should be greater than 2. So if you see the output, we have the different city names, and these were the cities where the count of employees was greater than 2. Alright, so let's go to our MySQL workbench and implement how having works. So suppose you want to find those departments where the average salary is greater than $75,000. You can use the having clause for this. So let me first run my table, which is employees. If I run this, you can see we had inserted 20 rows of information, and the last column we had was salary. So the question we have is, we want to find those departments where the average salary is greater than $75,000. So let me show you how to do it. So I'll write select department, comma, I'll use the aggregate function that is average salary. I'll give an alias name as avg underscore salary from employees. Next we'll use the group by clause, and I want to group it by each department, and then I'm going to write my having clause. So in having clause, I'll use my condition that is having average of salary greater than $75,000. Let's run it and see the output. There you go. So here you can see there were total 3 departments in the company, that is sales, finance and HR, where the average salary is greater than $75,000. Okay. Next, let's say you want to find the cities where the total salary is greater than $200,000. So this will again be a simple SQL query. So I'll write select city, comma, I want to find the total salary, so I'll use the sum function and I'll pass my column as salary, as I'll give a alias name as total from employees group by city, and then I am going to use my having clause. I'll pass in my condition as having sum of salary greater than $200,000. Alright, so let's run this query. There you go. So the different cities are Chicago, Seattle and Houston, where the total salary was greater than $200,000. Now suppose you want to find the departments that have more than 2 employees. So let's see how to do it. I'll write select department, comma, this time since I want to find the number of employees, I'm going to use the count function. I'll write count star as employee underscore count or EMP underscore count, which is my alias name, from employees. Next, I'll group it by department, having, I'll give my condition count star greater than 2. Let's run this. Okay, so you have departments such as sales, product, tech and IT, where there are more than 2 employees. Okay, now you can also use a where clause along with the having clause in an SQL statement. So suppose I want to find the cities that have more than 2 employees apart from Houston. So I can write my query as select city, comma, count star as EMP count from employees, where I'll give my condition city not equal to Houston. I'll put it in double quotes since I don't want to see the information regarding Houston. I'll group it by city, having count of employees greater than 2. So if I run this query, you see we have information for Chicago and Seattle only, and we have excluded the information for Houston. Now you may also use aggregate functions in the having clause that does not appear in the select clause. So if I want to find the total number of employees for each department that have an average salary greater than $75,000, I can write it something like this. So select department, comma, count star as EMP count from employees group by department, and in the having clause I'm going to provide the column name that is not present in the select expression. So I'll write having average salary greater than 75,000. This is another way to use the having clause. Let's run this. Alright, you can see we have department sales, finance and HR, and you can see the employee count where the average salary was greater than 75,000. Okay. So let me run you from the beginning what we did in our demo. So first we created a table called employee, then we inserted 20 records to this table. Next we explored a few SQL commands like distinct, then we used average, and finally we started with our group by clause, followed by looking at how group by can be used along with another table, and we joined two tables, that was sales and product cost table, to find out the profit. Then you learned how to use the having clause. So we explored several different questions and learned how to use having in SQL.